to welcome everyone who is joining, both here in the room. Happy to see this many people here, and also online. This is the kickoff, so it's really the start for a new project that we have shortened to TreesForDev, but the long title for this project is the socio-ecological, ecological and politico-economic dynamics of ecological restoration through tree planting schemes in the Global South. And I will just say a few words in the beginning before we introduce the team, and I hope that all of our research collaborators are here. They are here today and will show themselves for you as well. This is the program we have set up for today. Just a few welcome greetings, a few slides on that, and then we will go through the project. As for today, we don't have much of results to come with yet, but we are here to introduce, make ourselves known, hope to make connections with those that are interested in the same topics, and we hope that you will find it interesting. And of course, we have 3.5 years in front of us to work on these topics, hopefully with many of you that are also joining. Really, this topic that we're working with, Trees for Development, I think it's a topic that has been brewing for us in this research team for a while. Together with Markus Kröger, who is sitting here, we have been working on forestry topics, forest-related topics together for about, well over 10 years actually already, mostly in South America. But we have followed on the side what's happening right now with topics related to climate change, the ecological crisis, and this call for planting trees. It seems to be everywhere. The tree planting is booming, and we're also talking about rewilding, and very much also here in Finland, ekologinen jälleenrakennus, the ecological restoration, is a topic that's gaining ground. And also very much businesses going into wanting to help nature to restore itself. And this is an extremely interesting topic, both for the planet, to actually do some work on the planet, but for the help of the planet, but also for the knowledges that we have as a combination in our team, as we're based at a business school where we do research on, for example, corporate social responsibility, sustainability, sustainable investments, sustainable innovations, entrepreneurship, combination with global development studies that have core knowledges on the politics of land use, so forth. So this is really the interest that has caught our interest. So this topic that we are about to set ground into can be explained through many different perspectives, but here I've tried to visualize the overview of this ecological restoration and tree planting focused ecological restoration as the roots, the structures of what's happening particularly in the Global South. We can see through policy changes in policy, pledges that are coming out, for example, the Bonn Challenge that is pledging to plant, I can't remember exact number of trees, but many trees up and calling everybody to join in. The Great Green Wall Initiative from 2007 is in Africa looking to build a tree planting that will stop the desertification expanding. Those are two of the core topics that have framed tree planting in the past 10-15 years. But already in 1992, the Rio Earth Summit set out with the forestry management, principles of forestry management, and also the discussion on climate change came about at that time. But as you go through these routes that we have here, you can see that there are layers on top of each other that are growing this tree planting idea. through, for example, also the Sustainable Development Goals that are talking about life on the land and resilience and food security. Africa has their own visions of the Africa we want, the Agenda 2063, and then on this side of the tree you can see there's also very much about protecting and trying to avoid deforestation and conservation policies such as, for example, the RED policy from 2013. But as of 2015, the discourses and logics around trees and forests change a bit with the Paris Agreement on climate change. There is, of course, the net zero discussion, so we get a much more focus on carbon emissions and carbon sequestration, where trees are seen as central topic. But with the Paris Agreement, you can also see that a lot of businesses are catching on and coming in, and we see a little bit of different way of approaches this, particularly with the focus towards restoration. And here again, this is also in 2021, the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration starts, and focus is now more not just on protecting and stopping deforestation, but actually on restoring ecologies, restoring forests, restoring landscapes. Several more frameworks are coming in to support this. Now we're also talking about much more about the biodiversity, mass extinction of species. And this year, EU has had several regulations that probably will impact very much what happens with tree planting, ecological restoration, but also forests, for example, the regulation on deforestation-free supply chains that demands that the tree cannot be sourced from areas that are being deforested. So forests are very much the focus here. The tree is the focus, but it's not only policy level. It's not only what's happening on that sphere of international regulations and global agreements. We also have very much things happening on the ground. We have movements that are emerging. So here on the left side, you can see the practices and knowledges that are very much informed by specific people trying to invent ways of restoring water cycles, carbon cycles, nutrient cycles in the ground with more or less success, but these are also these practices and knowledges they're transferring not just from the global south, but also through South-South networks. Extremely interesting to follow how practices emerge from different specific places and spread. And again, there are many movements, organizations that are emerging out of this root landscape, but also because people are inclined to want to help nature, we do know that a lot is at stake for the most vulnerable communities that are hit by drought and so forth. So there's both movements, practices and knowledges, and policy and governance topics that can be explored from a social science perspective. But so the Develop 2 project that we now are being funded for 3.5 years almost, is coming from Academy of Finland together with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it's focused on development issues from a multidisciplinary perspective, and very much also focused on the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals is a core topic. And in this particular project that we have now received funding for, we are a consortium from Helsinki, from University of Helsinki, Global Development Studies, more in particular, as I already mentioned, and Hanken School of Economics. And our team is, particularly out of the 3 themes that this funding mechanism is giving, is contributing towards food security, biodiversity, environmental health, sustainable management, and use of natural resources. So the aim of our project is to offer a detailed examination of different types of ecological restoration that involves trees in one way or another. It can be only trees, but it can also be part of the solution of the ecological restoration that trees are being planted. And we are doing this both with a situated empirical analysis combined with a global analysis of the drivers and barriers of these changes. So the project operates on 2 levels. We have the global analysis that we will soon go into detail. That's looking at the expansions and the geographic expansion, but also on mapping different funding schemes that enable the emergence of different tree planting schemes. And then we have 4 different countries with situated case studies, but that we will examine how this expansion and the funding that goes into them then manifest itself on the ground, both in terms of the socio-ecological implications, but also the political and economic implications of that. So we are also very interested in looking at the gendered impact of tree planting schemes in relation to women's economic role in agroforestry and how these gendered inequalities then may play out in terms of discrimination and violation of human rights impact, and how does this impact the outcome of the ecological restoration practices. This is the theme. I already mentioned that we have been collaborating for quite some time. This is the team here in Finland. We also have together with us today Sergio Sauer from Brazil. He will be here presenting the part about Brazil. But Markus and I have worked on the forestry industry we've been looking at, Markus has mostly looked at Brazil. I've worked with Uruguay and Chile before. Then we have Sofia, who has worked with food systems. She's here, and she's a geographer by default, so global mapping is something that she is also very comfortable with. And Ossi is also with us today, has been working lately on agroforestry, and you are also very knowledgeable of Brazil and Mozambique. And Linda is on the screen and has been doing work on water governance, and she's sitting in Ethiopia right now. And then Ketta, who is working on Madagascar on conservation policy, is one of the topics, but you have explored many different also, mining, artisanal mining, and so forth. But Madagascar is an area that you know a bit better and have good contacts to. So here on the right-hand side, you can see some of the co-authored papers that we have written. We have both looked critically on those topics that might not maybe be so ecologically sound, the effects of monocultures on the ground in terms of livelihoods, ecology, and so forth. But we have also looked at the whole assemblages of extractivist practices. But we have also in our research community delved into the terms of transformative alternatives and the potentials that lie therein. And really in this project, what we hope to do is to kind of get extractivism is now kind of an established field, and we have been participating in contributing to that field and knowledges. In this project, we hope to really give more theoretical soundness to the topic of transformative alternatives and the politics that go around that. And I think there's a lot of potentials to look at that through the lens of ecological restoration. And as trees has been a common feature of many of us here, it also feels natural that we follow the trees. So I will now give over to Markus. He will comment.
Thank you, Maria. So yes, so I'm from Global Development Studies at the University of Helsinki, and so I have studied until 2015 quite extensively the global expansion of tree plantations, especially for eucalyptus pine monocultures all around the global south especially. And in this project we are more interested in what has happened after 2015. That was the time when this net zero discussion started, and we are more interested in looking at ecological restoration-based tree planting schemes. So not so much on tree plantations, like extensive plantations, hundreds of thousands of hectares, or monocultures for pulp production or carbon capture and so on, but more like more specific tree planting schemes. And there has been a lot of things happening in this arena in the last few years, and there's very little empirical knowledge on what is actually happening on the ground. So you have all kind of compensation schemes for carbon credits and so on, but we have to go to the countrysides of those places to actually know what's happening on the ground. So that's why we have the situated work packages on which the other soon. But then in this work package 1, with the help of Sophia, we will focus on this kind of global setting. So firstly, situating this ecological restoration. What kind of tree planting schemes can be considered as ecological restoration, restoring forests, for example, or other local bioma, water balances, stream flows? What is the impact in terms of soil and so on? So we will be also looking at natural science publications on those, on hydrology and so on. And then all kind of data on what kind of schemes have been announced, what are imagined, what are real, what's happening there, like, and in which parts of the world. Like there's been announcements of planting like huge amounts of trees. A lot of money is flowing into this, and Maria will soon talk about the specific financial flows that we also study in detail. But here the idea is to get an idea of like what we are talking about, what kind of trees, an overall overview, to situate the ecological restoration and other kind of, for example, carbon-based tree planting schemes like this. Being worried that you are trading carbon for water, for example, like you cannot have both. So it's important to understand this in terms of the political economy. Also, like what kind of actors are involved. Are these planted primarily by community-based initiatives or companies or consortiums of them, by NGOs, states, which states, development cooperation projects, and we are particularly interested on the Finnish development cooperation projects on this issue, but also the EU level projects, and then South-South cooperation. So that's, for example, we have Brazil and Mozambique, so we will be looking at what are the relations there. And this research is done also in the way that we try to connect the actual actors working on this. So in Brazil, for example, we have the Brazilian Landes movement that has 1.5 million members, and they have announced that they will plant 100 million trees in their land reform settlements, which are also, and they have connections, for example, to Mozambique. So we are interested in also in that kind of nexuses. So what are the key global processes, divergences, novelties since 2015? This will provide an overall picture of the whole setting. And yes, next.
The second work package here is really about, well, the business of trees, but not the business of trees as we have now the commercial tree planting, but the business of how are these projects funded? How and I would say not only funded in the financial sense, but also resources, knowledges. How are those transferred through different organizations? So currently, we can see, I had that first page with all the news that's coming out about tree planting, but if you go a little bit deeper and you read these articles and you look at what, just do a Google search on tree planting, ecological restoration, and you will see tons of different organizations that are working on these topics, both topics. So we have both, as I said previously, these policies, pledges, but also governments and private financial institutions. For example, you can see here, EBLI in Finland has just recently come out, very much focused on investments in forests globally. But we also see corporations. For example, this summer there was the news that AstraZeneca is pledging to plant 200 million trees, part of this in Brazil actually, so we will see if we can follow up on that as well. So we have just a corporation that take it on as a corporate social responsibility. and so how does that then play out? We have new NGOs, such as, for example, Ecology, One Tree Planted, We Forest. These are not directly the organizations that are here. The pictures are not those that we are maybe going to study, I'm just showing here that there are so many different organizations that are working in different ways. Each of these NGO have different financial mechanisms of how they are funding these eco-restoration projects. So how does that actually then influence how people have a say, what the ecology look like, who is deciding what? Extremely interesting to look at, and how these projects are managed. We also have the traditional development focused organizations such as, for example, World Vision or Suomen Lähetysseura that also are mentioning that they do support some tree planting. So is that a lot different from these novel ones that are mainly focused on tree planting? The more traditional one that have better knowledge locally, that have been there for a long time, in what way are they different? We also see grassroots organizations that are transferring knowledges. So, and that can happen in any direction. It can happen also from global south to global north. I had syntropic agriculture mentioned in that first slide of the tree. That is something that has come about in Brazil, and I know that there's been courses now in the Nordics as well. So these Eco Restoration Alliance, I hope I have some of you with me here. I saw you on the list, you might be there, is an extremely interesting group that is connecting. Everybody's working on ecological restoration around the world, trying to share knowledge and having meeting every week. So that is one more informal network that doesn't maybe require so much resources, financial resources going in. There's another one called Water Stories, a water story community that looks kind of like a Facebook page where people are sharing knowledges on how to restore water cycles. And of course, trees are also part of the picture in the restoration of water cycles. So all of these different organizations are working in different ways, and that is, we will also here be very interested in mapping what are the different scenarios we have, but also looking more like from these perspectives, also working together with the cases in our different partner countries. And that's where we come over to the partner country, and now it's over to you, Linda, who is there online.
Okay, good afternoon, and thanks for the presentation so far. I was supposed to today present together with Professor Bikila Warkene-Dullo, but unfortunately he had a sudden emergency and he could not join this presentation, so let me present on behalf of him as well. So as the work package 3, and then following the other work packages on other countries, this package is about the geographical context of Ethiopia. And Ethiopia was selected for this project because it has a very long history of deforestation, firstly because of agricultural land expansion and then also recent industrial agricultural interventions. There is also the issue of low rural electrification, which leads to high demands on charcoal production and thus deforestation. But as an exemplary sort of, or why Ethiopia has been in the limelight with regard to tree planting, is that, well, first of all, there is a very long, more than 100 years of practice of reforesting and afforestation activities, which have been mainly government-led. And in the year 2016, Ethiopian government actually launched this so-called Green Legacy Initiative, which had a plan of planting as much as 20 billion trees by the year 2023. And also it's part of the African Union's Great Green Wall Initiative, which has very ambitious goals of building a reforested belt around the Sahel desert to stop the desertification. But of course, there are very contradictory logics present. The demand for industrial and fuel woods is at the same time increasing as these very ambitious tree planting schemes are are taking place. And we are interested to look at this within our research team here in Addis Ababa University. And let me just introduce Dr. Professor Bikila Workne, although he is not here. He is the chairperson of the Department of Plant Biology and Biodiversity Management at Addis Ababa University. And he has a long, extensive career looking into the plant ecology and social sciences side of tree planting, but also a strong interest in the political and policies of natural resource management and climate change in Ethiopia. Then myself, I'm a postdoctoral researcher within this project. My background is in water governance and corporate social responsibility related to water in Ethiopia. And I'm interested in the kind of hydrosocial relations and among the various actors, and also this kind of state, community, private sector relations in ecological restoration. And then we have the big pleasure of also welcoming a new doctoral student in the project, Fedi Chernet. She's second year doctoral student, and she's interested in looking at the ecological processes around tree planting schemes, and also in relation to biodiversity management and climate change. We have currently been thinking about studying 3 different empirical cases. One would be the government-led Green Legacy Initiative, which has received a lot of attention, but it hasn't been, the long-term effects have not been researched to such an extent yet. We have one project that we have been discussing with an NGO called WeForest that has a lot of private sector connections in the Dessa forest in Tigray. And then we have different farmer-led agroforestry initiatives that we are planning to study as part of this work package. If you have any questions later, we will look into those. Now I will hand over to, I think, Marketta.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Marketta Vuola. I'm a doctoral candidate in global development studies at the University of Helsinki, and I'm leading the work package on Madagascar in this project. So what is special about Madagascar is that it's a global biodiversity hotspot. It has more or less 5% of the world's species, and 80% more or less, or even more, of Madagascar's species are endemic. That means that they are not met anywhere else in the world. So that has made Madagascar for a long time a priority target for international conservation efforts and funding, of course. At the same time, deforestation in Madagascar has been rapid, and as of now, 10% of the island's land area retains native forest cover. Also, fragmentation of these forests has been rapid. Madagascar is also one of the world's poorest countries. It has a large rural population, of which wide majority are living below the poverty line, and around 90% of them have been estimated to be directly dependent on forests for their livelihoods. If we talk about ecological restoration, conservation NGOs have been very much driving this field in Madagascar. It's partly because over 1/3 of official development assistance earmarked for environment in Madagascar has gone to ecological restoration activities during the past decade or so. That means that in Madagascar we have a wide evidence to study in terms of ecological restoration, and that makes it an interesting case for our project as well. Researchers in Madagascar case study, well, there's me. Then there's Professor Bruno Ramamontisua from the University of Antananarivo. Then there's Suuranchi Amaru from the Indian Ocean Research and Support Center for Development Alternatives. And then we have two PhD students, Mathieu Pierre and Odin Fitiavana Tanzananirid. Case studies, well, there is no shortage of possible case studies in ecological restoration in Madagascar. One for sure that we want to study is the eastern humid rainforest range that you can see in the, well, eastern parts of the country. So there at least one case study. The other ecological area are the dry forests, which you can see as green. And then another axis for comparison, I would say, between case studies would be projects initiated by international conservation NGOs on one hand, and then farmer-led initiatives on the other hand. From Madagascar, we have greetings from our partners, which I will show you next.
I am Bruno Ramamunsu. I am professor at the Forest Department of the School of Agronomy at the University of Antananarivo, and we are a project partner for the work to be carried out in Madagascar as part of this project. I understand that it's very relevant for us to be part of a socio-ecological and political-economic dynamic of ecological restoration through tree planting program in the Global South, because we know that we faced with a major forest degradation and its numerous negative impact, despite the fact that reforestation has been carried out by all socio-economic and even political stakeholders for the last 10 years. I'm really sorry I couldn't take part of this kickoff meeting, but I hope I'll be available next time. Wish you all a very good meeting. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Suuranchi Amaru, and I am the coordinator of Centre de Recherche et d'Appui pour les Alternatives de Développement aussi en indien, which is a Pan-African organization based in Madagascar, where we work together with community-based organizations as well as women's and youth associations in different regions of the country. We support their movements and their campaigns for human rights and climate justice. And we will be partnering with this project for the work that it is going to do in Madagascar. And we are very happy to be part of it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the research team, Maria, Ozzy, Markus, for the opportunity. I will briefly present Brazil. I'd say deforestation based, especially because of the rainforest and the Amazon conservation issues. Deforestation is a burning issue in Brazil. It's kind of tricky, stupid joke, right? But anyway, so Brazil is also a key example of deforestation, but at the same time, it's a country with a lot of interesting experiences in terms of ecological restoration. I would say probably forest restoration more than ecological restoration. And there is several programs, since Brazil is one of the countries that signed the Sustainable Development Goals. There is governmental programs, there is public policies. We're gonna have those things as our background, but we will look in 3 different case studies, considering that since it's a very large country, we have different, very specific characteristics, what we call ecological biomes. So we're going to look at one example in the Amazon, of course, but we also try to study two other cases, one in this biome called Cerrado, which is wrongly classified as a Brazilian savanna. Actually, more than 50% of its territory is forest. But we're gonna look at one case there and also one in the Atlantic forest along the coast. Only 70% of this biome still remain. So it's really damaged, historically damaged, because along the coast and colonization and so on. But we're gonna look in these three cases, looking into grassroots initiatives, having all of these national policies and all these deforestation or the political issues related to planting trees or ecological restoration as background. But we try to study, to understand, and to bring up grassroots experience, one in each of those three biomes. And well, the research team, three of us are here, and also a PhD candidate from the University of Brasilia also will be part of the team and write his thesis on this issue. So that's it.
Okay, thanks. Greetings on my behalf as well. So Mozambique, also one of the poorest countries in the world. Yeah, it's well, in the same way than Madagascar. It's a largely agrarian society still. 90% perhaps gets living from the land. I'm not exactly sure the today's number. Its deforestation is increasing there. For example, from 2000 to today, some 15% of the forest cover has been lost. Very few primary forests left, like 1 promille of those left. So this work package we will have. So besides me, 3 researchers from Observatorio do Meio Rural Observatory, based in Maputo, capital. Maria Ehrnström-Fuentes and Yasser Dada, who is the president now of this institute. So we will have Maria's briefing. These ethical cases are still initial. We are still thinking about them. We discussed last week of these. One very prominent is one Zambesia's province restorative schemes. It has been kind of the biggest. It's been the biggest loss of forests in Zambesia, but also some reforestation, restorative schemes there. And then an interesting area that I've been thinking that we've been discussing is this restoration of mangrove forests. And they seem to be like very, at the moment I have very little experience of these, but it seems to be a very, very prominent area, very critical. So perhaps we will have comparative stuff with other of our countries, project countries. Well, that's about it. I will show Marianne's reading.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Ehrnström-Fuentes. I am a researcher at the Observatorio do Meio Rural, OMR. OMR is an independent research institution focused on rural development and agricultural, and aiming to influence policies in Mozambique. OMR has 5 main research lines. one of which it's focused on the environment and rural areas. And in this research line, we try to understand the impacts of climate change on rural areas, but also the impacts of deforestation and how ecosystems and biodiversity and how this impacts the lives of the rural population. We are integrated in this very exciting and interesting project, and we are very happy.
Hi, my name is Sophia Hagolani-Albov. As Markus mentioned earlier, I'm going to be working most specifically with Work Package 1, but you've already heard about that, so I'm going to tell you about something a little bit different. So with this project, and as part of the Develop to funding instrument, one of the really important things with this project is we really want to make sure that we have robust interaction, and we are hoping that we will make some real social impacts on the front of ecological restoration through the lens of tree planting schemes. So as you can see in my slightly ridiculously text-heavy slide, we have a bunch of goals that we want to hit in different areas of interaction. We want to make sure that we're not only interacting with the research community, but that we're also influencing education, that we're reaching out and working with communities and practitioners. We want to be liaising with policymakers and influencing the policy decisions that are made around these really important tree planting projects, and also the ecological restoration that is carried out through these projects is or is not carried out to be determined. We have plans to reach out to the media, the public, and then once again, here we are back to the research, because the research is at the core of this project. So one of the things that we really want to do is we want to make sure that we're increasing the general knowledge about ecological restoration within our research fields, which are development studies, political ecology, sustainability business research, while stressing the importance of transdisciplinary research. As you heard during our presentations, there's a lot of different partners that we're working with in our case study countries that are coming from a wide array of disciplines. So we really are stressing that transdisciplinarity within the TreesForDev project. And also we want to look at those social processes too. So it isn't just what's happening, like what's actually happening, but also the wider social picture around what is happening in these sites of ecological restoration and tree planting. And with those research networks, increasing that knowledge about ecological restoration, we already have some really great partners that we're going to be working with. Hopefully some of them are here today. Here in Finland, we're going to be working in disseminating some of this knowledge with Siemenpuu, also with the Global Extractivisms and Alternatives Initiative, EXALT, which we are very lucky to have an inside track with. We'll also be appearing in places like the FSDR, the Finnish Development Studies, R, I don't know what the R stands for, that's terrible, oh no. But we'll be appearing at conferences like that, talking about our project, and also initiating discussions about ecological restoration, tree planting, and some of these, like I said, larger social processes that are happening around these. In terms of education, we really want to contribute to education in global development studies and responsible management, and especially international training programs that are specialized in different ecological restoration systems, because not all ecological restoration is the same. Even our very preliminary field investigations have shown us that there's a lot going on within this blanket term. In terms of community and practitioners, we want to cooperate on our research design. And as you already saw, we have some really great partners in our specific case countries. Also, as Maria mentioned in the beginning, we are working with organizations like the Eco Restoration Alliance to really, like I said, get that on the ground knowledge, so it isn't all coming from above. And we want to work on not only the research design, but also co-production of knowledges, because this isn't just knowledge coming down from the research platform. Knowledge goes both ways within our project. So we are particularly looking forward to working with the rural and urban communities that are involved in ecological restoration on the ground and finding that middle place for the co-creation of knowledge. In terms of policymakers, we're hoping through our project that we'll be able to create platforms of interaction with policymakers and financial institutions in Finland, the EU, and our partner companies to improve the design and governance structure of ecological restoration projects. And in that, we're particularly looking forward to liaising with our funder, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is supporting our part of this research under the Develop II funding instrument. We are also looking forward to hopefully working on the EU level, and like I said, in our partner countries and with organizations that transcend policy and society, for example, like Sitra. With the media and the public, as we said, this kind of links into what we said about the research, but we do want to not just increase attention to these issues within the research community and the practitioner community, but we also want to help be part of the team that is raising public awareness, both in Finland and our partner companies, about the importance and complexities that are involved in ecological restoration in the global south. Our aim is to increase both the visibility and relevance of ecological restoration in societal debates on biodiversity and climate change. And with that, we have some, like I said, those wonderful research networks that we're already working with, and also some of those networks that transcend the research society divide. And then we, of course, back to the initial circle with the research, we do have some other researchers who we are already working with, who are involved in these conversations that aren't our direct partners, but for example, June Boras, who works at ISS in The Hague, and also Stefan Bohm. Hopefully,
I want to add that on the NGO partnership, we have Heidi Herlin, who is sitting on the Åland Island. She has done her PhD on non-profit organizations and corporate collaborations, and she will be perfect match for the research where we are doing on the NGOs working on the ground and the corporate and financial linkages. I just wanted also to introduce her to the team here.
Yes, fantastic. So I know everybody out in cyberspace can see Heidi, and if everybody in the room wants to turn around, she's with us on the screen right there. So let's
I wasn't on the screen, but here I am.
So thank you very much, Maria. That was a wonderful intervention. And this is actually the first lovely illustration of the way we're really doing this project. As you can see, we have people sitting in different places and coming together through the magic of cyberspace. But one of the most important things that's my job to tell all of you, both at home and in the room today, is how can you stay up on this amazing project and all those like really ambitious goals that we have for what we're going to do with our interaction and societal impact. We now have our project website up at TreesForDev Pista Fi. You can also sign up for our mailing list. The link to that will be in the chat. You can also find us on X, formerly Twitter, maybe it's still better known as Twitter, at TreesForDev. Then if you want to collaborate or know more about our project, we are always reachable at TreesForDev@Helsinki Pista Fi. All right. So thank you. Woo! Yeah, let's clap. Yay.